Hi everybody, welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface and Missi Matthews alongside Bob Pompeani to recap the Steelers' loss to the Eagles 27-13 in Philly. Now 0-11 there since 1965, and it wasn't a game that they had to win. It would have been nice knowing the competition they were going against, but it just felt like in terms of the time of possession battle, majorly going in favor of the Eagles. It just did not work out yesterday.
Right, and Missy, this is one of those matchups that for whatever reason doesn't seem right for the Steelers, just as, you know, Baltimore versus Pittsburgh, it seems like it's a good matchup for the Steelers. But you mentioned time of possession. Actually, it was close in the first half. You know, you really thought the Steelers were going to come out and after getting a late field goal in that first half, 17-13, that they would be able to do something in the second half. And they were driving until the turnover, and the turnover was a big part of that. And then they only touched the ball 11 times in the second half. I've never seen the second half quite go like that. But you know, early in this game, Saquon Barkley, they did a good job on. He had one big run. Other than that, it was down the field passing. And Jalen Hurts can do this to you as well if you give him the opportunity. But they made a point of targeting those two wide receivers early on, and both Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown got over 100 yards.
Yeah, and I think especially with A.J. Brown and what they were dealing with, the narratives inside their locker room and outside for the media last week as well. And, you know, Jalen Hurts sat down for his post-game press conference and said, are you guys happy now? You know, we can pass the ball. It doesn't mean that because we haven't, we can't. And it was one of those games that extended their win streak to 10 games. The Lions lost yesterday, which was good news for them as well. But as you said, when you don't possess the ball enough, you can't do many things. But the Steelers punted 3 times in just the first quarter, or the first quarter alone.
Yeah, and the first quarter was just a bad start. They were outgained. I think it was 148-2. The first down differential was 9-zip in favor of the Eagles. Slow starts, they may not define you, but they do impact how the game progresses. And the Steelers were never able to overcome that start. They got close, and as I said, a 20-13 driving opportunity to score a tying touchdown. And if that happens, I think everything changes. But you know, very rarely do you see Najee Harris do what he did there, take his eye off the ball on a pitch. He's been reliable with possession of that football until yesterday, but it was the counter response too. They got it and they moved right down the field. And when you do that, you turn it into a 14-point swing.
Yeah, the momentum shift was definitely noticeable. And, you know, as Najee said, he stood tall in front of his locker after the game, spoke to the media, and as you said, admitted the mistake that he made, something that we have seen him do countless times and it work. And you assume at that point, if that does not happen, the fumble, they score a touchdown, they tie the game, and then who knows what would happen. But they also, you know, the Steelers weren't able to run the ball well. It just felt like without George Pickens, they were missing that piece, the threat of going down the field, and the Eagles didn't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, and that's a big part of this because Calvin Austin was the most targeted guy with 5. He made all 5 receptions. Freiermuth after that, but, you know, looking down the depth chart, Scotty Miller, I think, had 1 target or 2. Van Jefferson, same. Mike Williams only targeted 2 with 1 catch. I expected him to be more of a player, especially with George Pickens out, but we haven't seen that from him so far, whatever the reason.
Yeah, it felt like last week, you know, they didn't know Pickens wasn't going to be available until right before kick, and they were able to overcome that. I don't know. It's weird because you would assume with more planning time that would be something schematically Arthur Smith and the rest of the coaching staff could work on. But the fact, too, you know, T.J. Watt got them the ball back, and then even, you know, the special teams with Mark Robinson, Nick Herbig recovering it on that punt. They just weren't cashing in. And when you can't cash in when you're being handed the ball, especially in such great field position, things most likely are not going to go your way.
I think what you just said was the key to it. They had 2 opportunities early in the game to take advantage of forced turnovers. T.J. Watt with a great, you know, punch out for Jalen Hurts. They recover that. They're in plus territory. They can't score. They move backwards, and there was a sack involved there. And then after that one where you saw Cooper DeJean get hit by Mark Robinson, a great play. They have it inside the 20, I think at the 10, whatever it was, they get 3 points only. You can't do that. If you're going to play that game and take advantage of it, it's how many points can you score off turnovers, and they didn't do a good enough job in that department.
Nope. And in terms of the defense, too, you know, you did not have Deshaun Elliott. You didn't have Larry Ogunjobi going in. That was pretty clear throughout the week. Neither of them were able to practice, but then Dante Jackson gets hurt in game with a back injury. He wasn't able to go back in. And then towards the end, I think at that point, it really didn't matter. T.J. Watt gets injured.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. And,
No.
and, you know, all of us are armchair doctors at that point. You're looking and saying, okay, what is that? Is that in his ankle? Is it high ankle, low ankle? Is it a stress? What is it? And then, of course, people on Twitter who are legitimate doctors, give their take. And then
From watching on TV.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see the pain and you're wondering what in the world, because you cannot afford to lose this guy, certainly.
No.
He had 2 sacks, forced fumble, whatever he did yesterday. And he's going against a good guy in Lane Johnson. There's no question. That was a big 5-star matchup, as Mike Tomlin likes to call it. But when he pulled up there, I thought, okay, this is the wrong time for that to happen. But the good news, x-rays were negative. And as Mike Tomlin said, he was walking around the facility today. So normally when you hear Mike Tomlin talk about being optimistic, he doesn't use that word when talking about injury. So that's a good clue as far as TJ Watt. Now the other guys, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on all of those. Plus Justin Fields, forgot about him. We saw him very briefly. And then when he had that slide, that's when he came out very quickly after halftime, but went back in and was ruled out with that abdominal injury as well. So it's Ravens week. A division championship is on the line. So it's all hands on deck for sure. And just knowing, as we've talked about countless times, injuries around the league. Patrick Mahomes is also dealing with an ankle injury. And the road is getting narrow, to use a Tomlinism, but it's true. And knowing how much is at stake, it's going to be an interesting, 9-10 days here for the Steelers with 2 games.
It'll happen
up
quick, and you'll find out real quick exactly where they're going to go. You want to win this game now, take care of business. If you do, you clinch. If you don't, the Steelers still can win the division because of the tiebreakers, and it's pretty lengthy. I mean, we were looking at these tiebreakers today, Missi. It can go all the way to the end trying to figure that out. But to make sure you don't have to, you win the game. And that's why I think Mike Tomlin is going to go all hands on deck. You got to and you'll have some time then to figure out who's healthy, who's not, who needs rest, who doesn't, as you head into the postseason. That's the most important thing, health at that part of the year.
Right, and as you said, if you can get the win in Baltimore, get your hats and T-shirts, clinch the AFC North, and you do have time to play with letting people heal up. I go back to that game in Baltimore last year when TJ Watt got hurt and then wasn't able to play in the Bills game in the playoffs. Injuries are part of the game. They're going to happen, but it's, the time that it happens and where the team is at that point.
Right, and a lot of people say, well, don't play guys late in the game. Okay. You can get injured just as George Pickens did. Who knows when that happened? Was it in practice? Did it happen late in the week? It could be anything that triggers an injury. I don't think you can plan that way. You have to just look at these games as what they are. And this is an opportunity to clinch the division. So the Steelers love to do it, especially in Baltimore, where they've won 4 in a row. And if they can do that, then you can pick and choose who plays against Kansas City and beyond that.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Pomp, for joining me here today
Always
on the Extra Point by Microsoft Surface. Thanks to you at home as well. We'll have a recap for you again following the game in Baltimore. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.